Welcome to part 2 of the Module 6 vidcast. Young adult historical fiction has been around for a long time, but it really took off in the mid-1990s. One of the reasons was the Scholastic's Diary series that came out in 1996. I think that was a real catalyst for getting more quality historical fiction into the hands of young adults. Scholastic was smart. They packaged it well. It's small, it's a diary size which appeals to teens, and it was kind of unique at the time. They also selected really distinguished authors. You can see the names of some of them on the screen. They made it gender-based to begin with. Dear America, which was more of a girl series, and then My Name is America, which appealed more to the boys. Another thing that was a big plus for historical fiction for teens was the Scott Odell Award. That award was started in 1982, and it's a cash award. The $5,000 helped generate interest in and help bring notoriety to the field of young adult historical fiction. I mentioned Rosemary Chance in this class before. She's written another textbook about young adult literature similar to Michael Card's. She talks about historical fiction taking readers to the past in the setting, characters, and events, and says it should be at least 20 years ago if it's going to be classified as historical fiction. It's rated one of the least popular genres. In fact, Anne Rinaldi, a prolific historical fiction writer, sarcastically puts in her books, "Read at your own risk. The writer feels it is necessary to alert you that you might enjoy it," which is just sort of a clever way of getting a young adult interested. Sometimes students may associate it with an assignment. Here's a quote from a teen. You have to read a historical fiction title and do a book report. But the tide is changing. The genre fluidity that I mentioned to you before can be seen across the titles that are on your screen. Whether it's historical fiction combined with romance or mysteries or adventures or fantasies, these are some examples of how the genres cross. There are also some that combine history with contemporary lives and go back and forward. Revolution is one I read several years ago, a really popular and powerful book about the French Revolution. But it's a time travel piece, and so you learn about the French Revolution as told through the eyes of a contemporary teen. You'll see a couple of quotes on your screen up there. My Brother Sam is Dead has been around a long time, and it's often on middle school required reading lists or summer reading lists. Christopher talks about flinging readers into a living past. My Brother Sam is Dead is about two brothers on opposite sides of the Civil War. Then Jen Hubert on the Reading Rants website reminds us it's a lot of fun to read about history through historical fiction. This is a selection tool that I would recommend for you that's specific to historical fiction. You can check WorldCat and see if there are any copies in the libraries in your area. You can also find great lists on the web. I linked out to young adults' historical fiction by periods. Public libraries do a great job with curating helpful lists as well. Booklist, as you're learning from this class, does a great job with their Spotlight series. Each spring, they spotlight historical fiction. You can click on that link, and it will be this past spring's top 10 historical fiction titles for young adults. You can get a 30-day free trial and see if it's something you might want to purchase for your libraries or for yourself professionally. It may also help you with this class. Black Duck by Janet Taylor Lisle is a historical fiction book that you all are familiar with through this class. I wanted you to explore some of her thoughts on historical fiction for young adults. Now I'll move on to series titles for young adults. Some of you are familiar with the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. These started with Edward Stratemeyer, and he ended up creating what is sometimes called the $1 Million Fiction Factory, where he would hire other writers. The writers would just crank these out after the series became so popular. As you know, some of these are now available in graphic novel format. Rena Talgmeyer, who does the Small and Drama, started out being an illustrator for the Babysitters Club graphic novels. The reason these series are so popular with kids is that they like the familiarity. Kids like to see the characters continue from book to book. They'll come in if they like one book and say, "I want one just like that." Kids like the anticipation of what's going to happen. What's the new mystery that Nancy Drew solves? They also like the fact that typically the publishers will keep these books the same length, so kids don't have to read a much longer book on the third one in the series. These series books are always the same length, the same reading level, and they don't vary much at all because the publishers have a captive audience and they want to keep that audience in a comfort zone. I find it interesting that the average reading level for series titles is 5th to the 7th grade. The aforementioned Twilight and Hunger Games are two good examples. Even so, these series are not too challenging. They are good escapism. It can be overwhelming to keep up with when there's a long run in a series. For readers' advisory purposes, I think it's really important for you to read the first book in the series. You're not going to read all 35 whistles, or every single one in a run of 10 books. But if you read the first one, it's a great way for you to show your readers that you honor and care about what they're reading. Booklist is really good about maintaining series lists. Several journal series run once or twice a year. Chapter 7 in your textbook talks about series books in a historical perspective, what's popular out there from the past. It's always good to see what other libraries are doing also, and in Missouri, the Mid-Continent Public Library has done a list of series titles. FixFact.com can help you keep your series in order. You can become a member and keep track of the series or get emails when there are new ones coming out. You can even create your own lists. On your screen, you'll see a selective list of popular fiction series for young adults. There are some older ones and then some more recent ones. You'll notice I didn't include a bunch of the dystopian series that are prevalent in young adult right now. This was covered in a previous vidcast. Happy reading, everyone.